So after watching Us this past week, I've noticed that in the past 2 years, we've gotten some really great horror/thriller movies. In my friend circles, there are always, there's quite a few people actually that hate on horror movies because they think they're stupid. To write off an entire genre of film simply because the subject matter isn't your taste is quite foolish, especially if you're trying to understand the actual medium of film. I wanted to take a moment to reflect on some of the best horror flicks we've gotten in the last 2 years and why you should give these movies a chance. Before we begin, I'd like to help make the distinction between what is a horror movie and what exactly is a thriller. A thriller is more psychological. It requires more thought and explanation as to what happens within the film, whereas horror has mainly blood and gore with, careless actions of violence. A good example for each would be The Sixth Sense is considered a thriller. Even though it deals with the supernatural, the ghosts are never a threat to the main character. The only purpose they serve is to drive the story. That's it. Friday the 13th is what is considered horror. You have Jason Voorhees, who's an active threat to the characters, and Jason chases the main characters down and murders them violently. There really isn't much character building done to make you actually care about any of these people in the movies. He's just a threat and they need to get away. It's about as simple as it gets. Sometimes you get movies that are like both. Now, The Shining has elements of horror, like the creepy visuals in the hotel and the terrifying twins and the blood elevator, but Jack Nicholson's character slowly going insane is what makes it a thriller. Some people like to argue that the actual axe attack scene is what makes it a horror movie, but I disagree. I think it's a combo of both. Whenever I talk to my friends about horror movies in general, they always chalk the movies up to be as stupid and not scary. I mean, the movies they often cite are examples of movies that constantly use, jump scares and mindless violence to terrify you. But it never comes off correctly. What frustrates the viewers the most are probably the moments within the films whenever dumb characters have to make dumb decisions in order to survive. I mean, what kind of decisions am I talking about? Okay, for instance, whenever a character hears some suspicious noise and they go to investigate. Moments like these drive people nuts. But what the audience fails to realize is that the filmmaker intended for that to happen. Well, no shit, Fez, of course. That's what makes it compelling. If the character didn't go and investigate the noise, then the movie would be boring. You don't watch horror movies to watch people make smart choices. You watch horror because you want to see people make dumb choices. If anything, you should be mad at the poor writing. If the writing was done correctly, then the situation might have put the character in a tough position that forces him to act dumb rather than have him be dumb. Yes, there's a huge difference. Another reason why people dislike horror is because it's predictable. I mean, slasher movies in general are always predictable. I agree, the horror genre often falls in the predictable category, but it is these combo horror/thriller movies, like The Shining, are what I consider to be the best type of terrifying and unpredictable movies out there. These movies manage to keep the viewer on the edge of their seat because the writing is compelling, and the frightening part about these movies doesn't come from the jump scares. No, you feel scared watching these movies because they touch you on another level. In the last 3 years, like I said, we actually have had 7 decent horror/thriller type movies to release, and I'm about to list them to you right now. In 2017, we had Get Out, It Comes at Night, and It. And in 2018, we got A Quiet Place, Hereditary, and Annihilation. And now in 2019, we just got Us. It is terrifying to me because clowns are freaking scary, and Skarsgård's interpretation of Pennywise was done so well. Even though the movie has plenty of jump scares, it's the kids that really made the story compelling. I mean, Pennywise manifests each of their fears and uses it against them. How they overcome them and defeat them is what makes the movie great. The visuals are also top-notch in the film. Get Out was phenomenal because not only was the threat something very real in the movie, but it had an amazing story with an extremely deep message about race, racism, and slavery, while also using elements of a basic horror movie. Get Out's use of color and camera movement was so creative, I completely understand why the Academy gave it an Oscar. So many subtle references done right. This is one of those movies you just have to watch twice to completely appreciate it. It Comes at Night is a post-apocalyptic tale of a family surviving out in the woods. It's a movie that delivers on some seriously creepy and eerie moments. The best part about this film is the way they justify each of the characters' weaknesses with good writing. This is one of those examples I was talking about. It's a simple story, but it's done so well. Darkness is utilized extremely well in this movie. My favorite scenes have to be the part whenever the boy walks around the house with the light in his hand. Seriously, some great cinematography and a great story. Definitely watch it. A Quiet Place. Maybe a horror movie that looks like it's filled with jump scares, but John Krasinski uses amazing sound to his advantage, and he scares us with silence. There were so many moments in this movie where I was scared that I actually ate my food quietly. Sound is such a huge part of this film. I highly recommend that you watch it with some good headphones if you want to truly appreciate this masterpiece. Annihilation is a movie that is a sci-fi movie, but there are moments in this movie that utilize horror techniques and execute them so well. I definitely consider it a mixture of both. The use of set design is such a huge part of this movie. It gives all the scenes this extra layer of story to everything that's happening within this anomaly these scientists are going to investigate. You have to watch it, it's great. Hereditary is hands down the most twisted horror movie I've seen in a long time. There was actually a moment in this movie where I had to pause it and take 5 minutes before continuing. Truly horrifying on every level. Not only did it make me feel kind of sick in the stomach, but it actually creeped me out. Movies don't really creep me out. That's the thing. That's why people always write off horror as such a bad genre. But this movie creeped me out. I'd never turn off the lights the same way ever again. The cinematography is amazing in this movie, and it plays a huge part in the storytelling. It's a movie you have to pay attention to. So creative, so well executed. This one quickly became one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Definitely watch it. Jordan Peele's latest masterpiece is a triumphant statement about privilege, and boy does it deliver. I don't want to spoil too much, but this is another one of those movies that isn't afraid to get you thinking outside the box. It's going to be talked about for a while, and it rightfully should be, because Peele did exactly what any great horror movie director does. He made a movie with fantastic visual metaphors, and it told us a story about how the privilege caused disassociation among those under them. Lupita and Winston Duke steal the show on this instant horror classic. If you're going to go see it this weekend or next weekend, definitely go watch it. Totally worth the admission price. So, should you give these movies a chance? Yes. Will you be scared? I can't guarantee that. But all of them will definitely have some sort of impact on you for sure. Trust me. Look, the power of horror and thrillers comes from you, the viewers. If you're actually afraid, I would recommend you actually watch these movies to help, empower yourself, because there's nothing more satisfying than making it to the end of a horror movie. If the scary factor isn't what's compelling you to watch this stuff, then watch these movies because they're shot extremely well and they do visual storytelling in such creative ways. It's hard not to see why these movies will be revered as horror classics in the near future.